Hi guys, we are here with you again and just for you. We are watching the oil change of the robot's gearbox, which is done by manual suction devices from above. This kind of oil changing is a most popular for technician because sometimes we cannot change the robot's position for favorite position to release all of oils because it doesn't possible. When we are fixing the robots on the structure, it is hard to open it and release the oil and again fill up the oils. That's why we are using the suction hand pump to do this job. Right now we are looking the guys, the technician doing the job I explained you about that. And also we see here bottle of the oils. How we can change the oil and which kind of information we need to change it. We see here some information about the oil on top of the bottles, but it's good to know how we can find the exact information for oil changing. It is very important. Here we have we wanted to follow procedure of ABBs. Procedure of ABBs. It showed to us which kind of oils and how we can change the oils and which kind of oils we need for which type of the robots. It's clear we cannot use all type of the oils for each robots. That's why we have to look at the manuals to make sure which kind of oils we need. Here if you see ABB offering two different type of the oils for oil changing, the first one and the second one, but we cannot mix two different type of the oils together. The oils is in this group is mixed within the groups but not with any other oil outside the groups. This is a notification of the manual for us. It means it is harmful to mixing two different kind of oils together with changing the oils. It is a very important. I'm repeating because sometimes if you decide to change it, we have to empty completely the last oil from our vessels, gearbox vessels. And also it is very important and good to know which kind of oil exactly we will use for which axis and which type of the robots. And here in the manual it's showing to us completely information, the type of robot, the type of oils, the names and part number and everything. For example, for IRB 260 for all versions M2004, for example, for all axes, we know axis is for gearbox and the place the robots can have freedom to change the position and leave or putting the stuff. That's right. For axis 1 we need to use type, for example, mobile gear 600 XP 320. How many? 6400 milli, and web config number is this one. It shows the green color showing to us, and also it's a normal mode for axis 2. It's showing to us normal mode for axis 3 also, but for axis 4 and 5 we see not applicable. It means the type of robot we cannot use the oil. Maybe we have to use the grease it is important and good to know. That's why it's showing to us for axis 4 and axis 5 it's not applicable. Of course for axis 6 it's showing to us we will use the type of Kyoto Yoshi TMO 150 70 mil. That's why very important to pay attention for information. It's showing to us in the manual. But after that, good to know we have to have another information to do this job correctly and properly. How we can make sure, for example, about the information and how we can make sure the oil about the oil we have to change it right now, and which date and the time it is a good to changing the oil. It is important to know. But here, before this information, we are looking to the information of the barrel, the ABB providers selling. For example, for this robot is a 2600 IRB. We are using, for example, Shell Omala S4WE 150 10,000 mil. This one it is, but of course we are filling up in the per axis is exactly the manual offering to us in the manual. But when we are buying for the robots, of course we are buying the more because we can use it. If we did mistake, we can fill it up again the gearbox vessels by the oil. Of course exact meal is showing to us in the manual. It is very important. But the third important points, we have another instrumentation here. We are looking to the devices. By this device we can make sure it's the good time to changing oil or not. How we can make sure it's a time to oil changing. It's a very important and good to know. This device is one of a lot of device the different company offering to test the sample of oil and the grease to make sure the time is a good time to changing, because sometimes we are counting by ourselves it is a time to oil changing, but it is a not good time. But sometimes we are doing this job late. That's why it is better to using the tester. This is a sample tester to testing the oil quality or grease qualities. That's why the guys we are looking for example they are picking up the little bit the sample of the grease and they are putting inside of the sample for tester. After the technician putting the cover, because if we put this sample inside of the tester slowly we have to lose the tester because the grease is a dusty. And after putting the grease in the tester, it's showing to us for example how many percent we have dust in the grease, and is it in our, for example in our favorite limitation percent or not. And we can test and we can use in this case in different kind of the, for example, oil, grease, and and the others stuff for lubrications. But here we are testing, for example, for grease. Yeah, it is a good to know, very important to have manual for any different kind of instrumentation and testers. And even for the oils, we are using sample by the injector. We are looking here the technician, after making the little bit test, they are putting in the tester by the injector. After they are putting the sample inside of the tester to looking how many percent we pass the quality we need to use the oil and grease for robots, or maybe it's a not good time to changing. For example, here in the manual of these machines, it's showing to us, for example, still dust connection in the grease, and the second columns is for still dust for concentration in oil. Of course, we are looking here if less than 0.05%, it need to management of still dust contain the grease at normal mode, and for percentage value 0.05 until 0.1%, we need to repeat greasing lubrication and measures the still dust concentration again 1 month later. For irregular value also more than 1.1%, we need to redo it again. For example, countermeasures for improvement of the lubrications, prescriptions, diagnosis, short cycle management, we need it. Of course, we are doing this job for oil also. That's why it is important before starting test with these testers, looking at the manuals. It could be very helpful to continue useful the job. As you know, the gearbox is an important part of the robot, and you should care about this health and the oil you buy. The metal part of the gearbox are placed at the short distance from each other. This has caused these parts to be in contact with each other when using the robots. This issue can cause wear and corrosion of these parts in the long run. To solve this issue, it's better to use high quality gearbox oils to that there is thin layer of the between these parts and prevent damage to the robot's gearbox parts. Why important to change the oil in robots? On this earth, everything that is consumable has expiration date, from foods and natural materials to industrials and the chemical materials such as robots, rubber, and even robot gearbox oils. As you know, the oil involved in the robot box follow because their main task is cooling, purifications, cleaning, and even lubrication. Therefore, it is natural that after some times of use, they lose their first day's property. And here we are looking to the guys. He's changing the oil by the hand pump. Yeah. The main task the engine oil is to facilitate the movement of the parts. Of course, this is not the only task of this thin substance, and the flowing can also be mentioned. Number 1, prevent rusting of the material parts. Number 2, increasing the service life of the robot's gearbox. Number 3, reducing the noise of the robot's gearbox. Number 4, reducing the force of impact on robot bearing. Number 5, sealing the gaps between parts. Number 6, cooling the parts of the robot's gearbox. Number 7, removing dust, foreign material and particles caused by wear of gearbox part. And number 8, keeping particles and other foreign material suspends. But here we are looking to the technician. He's changing the grease of the cylinder. Yeah, this kind of robot, if you're looking the robots, is a heavy one. That's why for this kind of robots, for cylinder we cannot use the oil. We will explain you why we are using sometimes the oil, why we are using sometimes the grease instead of oil. That's why the guys charging the cylinder by the grease. The reason before we explained you. It is important to know when is the right time to changing the gearbox oil, and also when checking the robot oil, which we do with the help of special searing oil gauge. We must ask ourselves 3 important questions. Has the gearbox oil level decreased? Has the color of the gearbox oil changed? Has the viscosity of the gearbox oil increased? It is a very important.